Welcome to the Innovation World Young Collaborator Podcast series. On today's episode is Chemical Comics Part 2. By the way, there is a Part 1, so please listen to that first. I'm here today with the famous one and only Dr. Colleen Kelley, a savior to many kids who want to read comic books and the best chemist in this world. A few facts. She is the creator and founder of Kids Chemical Solutions, which is a comic-based curriculum on chemistry intended for kids ages 8+. She was teaching chemistry to thousands of students for about 30 years. Whoa, that's more than my lifetime. She is on a quest to make chemistry fun and enjoyable and accessible. And this quest has largely worked on me, I can say that. She has used storytelling, which in my opinion is the best form of teaching there is out there. And she just won an Emmy Award for comic book chemistry. That must have been amazing, and I thoroughly congratulate you on that. Oh, forgot to introduce myself. My name is Siddharth Vikram. I am a 5th grader in Carlisle, Massachusetts. I have read all the MC Detectives Agency series books, 1 to 4, that are released. Could you tell me more about yourself?
Well, you covered quite a bit there, Sid. I don't know what else to say. I'm a mom, and that's been my greatest joy in life, I think. No, I know. Let's see what else. I live in Arizona, and I love to write stories.
I have your MC Detective Agency comics right next to me here. They are super fun to read, have drama twists, like the first 2 books. I will say, they were amazing. But the 3rd and 4th books, they have so many drama, plot twists, and there were many times I was like, wait a sec, that happened? It happens so much, and I've read these books hundreds of times because it's so fun. If it works, if I'm interested in these comic books, many other people should, and I'm sure our audience is very curious to know more. I have a question. Why do the main characters, Poppy and Ray, kind of look like plants? I mean, you can see it on their heads, they have leaves. Is this a certain character appearance, or did it just happen?
That's a great question, Sid, and one I get quite frequently from all of my readers, especially when I'm in person. That's the first thing they want to know about those leaves. And it was part of the character design because I wanted them to appear non-human. And so, almost like Dr. Seuss characters have kind of quirky things here and there. So, the green should give it away that they're not exactly human. So their skin color and their hair color is a little funky. And the leaf just adds another nod to the fact that um, they're universal. So I wanted them to be universal characters. And the Granny Eve, has a dandelion to kind of show the connectivity between them. And she uses that dandelion to wish them good luck when they go out on their missions.
So a follow-up question on character appearances. In book 2, when they meet Einstein, he says, oh, "You're green." That was exceptionally funny. But then 5 seconds later, he's like, "Let's go past that." How are you making the characters not really care about how Poppy and Ray look like? I was a bit confused. I was a bit more confused than Einstein.
Right. Certainly, if you encountered a green creature, you would have some kind of concern. But I think in today's world, Sid, there's some subtle messages that I'm bringing along here, and he notices that they're green, and then he just gets on with it, just like we should be with each other. We may notice, you know, red hair, whatever, different eye color, whatever we want to do, and just get on with it.
Yeah. Why do you think kids starting aged 8+ should be introduced to the books? Because before I got introduced to these books, I thought chemistry is a bunch of formulas and a lot of mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I love the way you framed it as mumbo jumbo because I think that's the way most of the world sees chemical formulas, for example, and equations, chemical equations. And that's precisely the reason, because it's a language. And so if I were to go to China and see Mandarin, and I've traveled there and I've traveled to Israel, and I've seen different styles of communication with lettering that's not based on our letter system. Even if you go to Germany or to other countries where they have several consonants like Russia together. So there's a lot in the world that appears to us like that. And so if we think of chemistry as a different language as opposed to a science, we can then understand that we want to start earlier than later and dissect the language first. The greatest barrier to success that I see in students with chemistry is just what you said, is deciphering the language. The concepts themselves are not difficult. It's the language barrier that really keeps students back. So the more I can get students used to the alphabet of science, which is the periodic table, then you take two of those symbols from the periodic table, put them together to get a word, which is a formula, and they keep going, the easier it's going to be for them to understand chemistry later on in life when the concepts are developing at a higher level.
Why is the series called the MC Detective Agency? And why do the kids not know they're in it?
Yeah, I like the mystery and intrigue that that question brings. And spoiler alert for any listeners who are out there, you might want to close your ears because I'm gonna spoil the mystery a little bit. So MC is Marie Curie, and it's her voice that's coming through the old 1930s radio to give to talk to Granny Eve. Marie Curie's daughters were named Irene and Eve. So there's a whole nod to the Curie family in this series. So it's called the MC Detective Agency because of Marie Curie. Granny Eve is named Eve after her daughter. And then the two elements that Marie Curie discovered are poppy, or polonium, which is poppy, and then radium, which is ray. So the main characters are things that are near and dear to Marie Curie herself.
Seems like you're really inspired by MC.
Yes, I definitely am inspired by her. The more I investigate and research and read about her life, she had hardship after hardship and really just kept going. So it's really commendable what she was able to accomplish, despite the fact that the first element she discovered, she was working in a leaky shed. She didn't even have a laboratory. And she was chipping away at a 1 ton rock of something called pitchblende to find radium. And it took her several years to just chip away at that and figure out where the radium was hidden there. And so Paris is not known for its warmth. So it can be a damp and cold city. And so she's in the damp and cold and day and night chipping away at that rock, trying to find radium. So this was not a glamorous white lab coat, pristine situation. It was a leaky shed with a dirt floor.
Shows that you have to work really hard on something to get the best type of reward. Speaking of the characters, what chemical is Grandma Eve? Boom! This is the hardest question I could think of in this episode. I hope it stumps you.
Yeah, she's not. She's just representing Marie Curie's youngest daughter.
What other subjects are you in when you're not working on your favorite subject, chemistry?
You mean other than science?
Yeah. What other subjects?
Ah, boy. Let's see. I read a lot of histories, but you can kind of see that in my books. So pretty much everything that I enjoy comes out into my books one way or the other. In the activity packets, there's some baking. Granny Eve has a recipe for chocolate chip cookies, and she has a recipe for creme brulee. So there's some of those recipes in there. And I certainly enjoy travel to Paris. So that's also represented in the book. So you can get a good read on who I am by looking at the books.
I've noticed that while I read this book in my subconscious, I was actually picking up the chemical information. How do you do that? It's so hard for me to think about how somebody can put it in there. And how did you manage to do this?
Well, I think through storytelling leads you into that. So storytelling ignites your imagination, and chemistry needs imagination for it to come together. So the story, the storytelling, the colorful characters, the dialogue, all of that gets your imagination started. And then when the chemistry is introduced, your brain's already in that world. And so it's an easier leap than if you're just kind of looking at a blank piece of paper and have to write something from your imagination, like a chemical formula. So the stories are helping you get there for sure.
What is your favorite chemical, element, and molecule?
Okay, great. So my favorite element, boy, that's a tough one. Hmm. I think it would be carbon. It's very simple, but I love organic chemistry, and organic chemistry is based on carbon. So I love all the ways carbon can change. So carbon is something that I love to follow and think about, and especially the way it changes. So carbon would be my favorite element for sure. My favorite molecule would be a tie between carbon dioxide and water. I think water, I'll give a nod to water because I think water is so interesting and so it's not well understood. I think we think that we know about water, and it because it's so common. Its chemistry is probably one of the most complicated molecules that we have, hands down. It's the one that stymies students globally because it's related to concepts like pH involves water, equilibrium, thermodynamics, kinetics. So much of what we're trying to solve in today's world involves water, and it's not a simple thing. So I like taking a deep dive into water. I say carbon dioxide too because I think carbon dioxide is also very common and not very well understood by the general public.
Yeah, those are things like I knew about carbon and carbon dioxide, but I never knew the tie between carbon dioxide and H2O. Chemistry is so vast and confusing. Woof, but it's also simple in another way. I have to say that. That's one thing I've learned from reading your books. What is your favorite scene and saying in the book?
Oh, for sure. Zero is our hero for sure. I wish I would have thought of that 30 years ago when I was teaching chemistry, because it makes a lot of sense to students if we're just going for the goal of positive charges canceling out negative charges to get to zero. Zero is our hero, is I think a really good mnemonic mechanism to remember a lot of chemistry by, and Ray says that. Um, I think my favorite scene is there's a soliloquy or a monologue from Led Z in the book four, The Case of the Vanishing Van Gogh, where she's talking a lot about like toxicity or negativity or things like that. And I think it's hilarious. And the fact that she played in a band previously called Poison, which back in my day was a real, I think they're still around, was a real band. So we know that lead is toxic and poisonous. And so I love the not so subtle nod to Lead Z's properties in this monologue.
Also, I observed in the case of the vanishing Van Gogh, there are two characters, Red Rusty and Cyanide, I believe. When they shake hands, they react to one another. Was this made on purpose, or did this just happen? Did this just happen?
No, that was made on purpose. When iron plus three, which is rusty, reacts with cyanide. And it's a little bit more complicated than that. This is one reaction that I did simplify for the purpose of this book. Um, there's a blue color that forms from that. So the blue when they shake hands is the color that happens when you react iron three with cyanide minus one. And then there's some ancillary reactions too that happen. But as part of the blue color in Starry Night is that. So the blue color that was used in Starry Night is a derivative of iron and cyanide shaking hands. So I looked to see what Van Gogh used, what pigments he used, and it's called Prussian blue is the name of the pigment. And I think there might be in the activity packet a little bit about Prussian blue.
Sorry, I was caught up reading your books. Okay, so back to my questions. Your books are amazing. How did you come up with this amazing plot? Did you have help from others? Did you think of them all by yourself?
Well, I came up with them myself. I find that when I'm incubating a story, it's best if I allow myself to um, go through this activity that one of our colleagues in Innovation World, Paula Intravia, talks about, which is purposeful daydreaming. So I usually incubate a story through this deliberate daydreaming and kind of move the plot forward with a little bit of writing, a little bit of daydreaming, a little bit of chemistry. Um, and because the process is so personal, it really doesn't make sense for me to have a collaborator on the incubation of the story phase. I have plenty of collaborators afterwards. Once the story has been developed and the script has been written, I'm happy to have people help me revise. But the storylines themselves are things that are a solo process to come up with.
Outside of making the story, did you have any other help?
So I had help with the artwork. So the characters that you see behind you, Poppy, Ray, Big Ox, and the other characters, I collaborate with an artist who was a former student of mine. And we talk about characteristics and traits I'd like to see in a character. I have an idea for a character, and then we refine that together, and she does the drawings for those. So that's the first stage, and that's called concept art. So concept art is just kind of sketching possible characters, some designs for that. And then we move that forward from the script and the concept art to the comic book artist. And the comic book artist then assembles all of that together.
Woo! That's a fascinating process for sure. I've seen the episode on File 5. Are there any more of those? I would love to see that. When or if there are more episodes, when will they come out?
Okay, so yeah, I get a little bit confused on this myself. So we call them files because they're case files and detectives use files. So file one to file 1, 2, 3, and 4 you've read. So are you asking about file 5 or how many files there will be?
Yeah, are there no, I'm asking what the, videos for them. When are the other ones coming out? Or will they come
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have audio files of those. So we have Audible or audio books of file 1. We have half of file 2 out as an Audible, and the next part will be file 2 will be done by the beginning of March. So about one audio book per month is coming out. That's about the rate we're producing those.
Quick thoughts on books. As you're aware, I live in Massachusetts, and here there are many kids interested in science. I am one of them. When I visited Boston Museum of Science, there was a store with a lot of science books. I wondered why the MC Detective Agency books were not on their shelves right now. Maybe if some of your books come out there, more kids will read them. I'm 100% ready to bet all my money that it would be sold as soon as it was out there.
Oh, that's a great entrepreneurial idea, Sid. I really appreciate that idea. When you were asking earlier about my collaborators, on the other end, I work with a publisher,
Oh.
and that's Hewitt Learning. And so Hewitt Learning is that my publishing arm. And so as the author, that's something I could do. But normally I would collaborate with my publisher and talk strategically about where we can ask bookstores to host our books and sell our books from there. So that's something we're definitely working on, and that would be a collaborative effort.
What is the thing you like the most about chemical and the periodic table? This is, I mean, not what got you interested into it. It's a kind of question on what is your favorite part about it.
I like the story and the history behind the periodic table and how the elements were originally used. There's some wacky ways that they were used originally. Lead was used in makeup. So women in the Victorian era and Elizabethan era, where they had like the white paint and the white wigs and all of that, yeah, their makeup was a lead-based paint. So I think there's just some really cool history about the ways elements were used and can be used and how they're evolving.
Are we gonna see more of Clive, Lady Xenon, Sir Carbon, Big Ox, and Red Rusty? Because they were some of my favorite characters. They're super funny too.
Um, there's sub-characters. Clive will most likely see again. Chlorine's a pretty common element and is useful in chemical reactions. So we'll see Clive again, I'm sure. Lady Xenon, maybe not. Um, and I'm sorry, who is the other ones you mentioned?
Sir Carbon, Big Ox, and Red Rusty.
Oh, Sir Carbon for sure. Yeah, he'll be in a lot more because we have to develop organic molecules through him.
Who is your favorite character based on their characteristics that you have created?
Well, I love Ray because Ray is modeled after my own son.
Oh.
And my son has puffy hair like Ray. And the other reason I love Ray is if I don't know if you've ever noticed this, Sid, but you'll never see Ray's eyes.
Oh, yeah, you see sunglasses and yeah.
I think that's hilarious when he has sunglasses over his hair, but you still don't see his eyes. Like I think that was an art piece that I intentionally put in that I thought was hilarious. And one of the reasons I like not seeing Ray's eyes is because he learns about the world intuitively. And so he experiences the world a different way than Poppy and the rest of the characters. So he feels things, he knows things, he trusts things, he hears things, but his vision is not the way that he assembles information in his world. He's certainly his stomach guides him quite a bit, and that stomach is a symbolic gesture to following your gut, right? Like sometimes you hear about your gut instinct, and Ray's always following the food that leads him to something else. So Ray is a really intricate character that on the surface looks like a big old goofball. But as you get to know him and do a deeper dive into Ray, I think you'll realize he's just a great soul.
Speaking of Ray and his appetite, does Ray have a chemical attraction to food, or did you just do that for a personality?
Yeah, the radium is not associated with his odd palate, let's say.
Speaking of the Emmy Award, I was super duper impressed. How did you feel when you won that?
I was surprised. It was something I was completely unexpected, Sid. And the way that the Emmys work is I worked with a team of producers. So when like a television show wins an Emmy Award, I would be considered the actress in it because the show is about me. So I didn't win for Best Actress, but the show won for Best, show. And so the award goes to the producers, and then to the show. So it's kind of like last night was the Super Bowl, so it's kind of like the whole team gets a Super Bowl ring, and then because we all participated. So I was definitely surprised because I just didn't know my producers had done that great a job. I mean, I knew they did a good job, but I didn't know it was that good.
That must have been really exciting. Before we let you go, is there anything else you would like to tell our audience?
Yeah, I would just say I would invite everyone to pick up the comic books and take them in a quiet corner and read, or read with your friends aloud, or play our free Audible books. They're perfectly free. They're available on the podcast What If World. Play those in the car when you're driving to hockey practice or to school, or Americans are in cars quite a bit, so play our free Audible books. we're trying to get a lot of free content out in the world to make sure that everyone can grab something. So we have tons of freebies on our website, and obviously our comic books and games and activities are for purchase as well.
Are there any digital books or audiobooks that are out right now?
The only thing digital as far as a book goes is the audio books.
Actually, after our first podcast, I was very encouraged by these books, and I actually asked our library team to order these books, and I am 100% sure they're on their way right now. How can anybody listening to this podcast would reach out to you? Can you share the websites or any other information?
Yeah. Our website is chemical solutions.com. So kidschemicalsolutions.com. And our website has tons of information. And again, we're uploading free games almost daily now. So our offerings for free materials are going to be there. So we invite listeners to check it out and have some fun with what we have available.
It was really, really nice meeting you today. I thank you so much for your time, Dr. Kelley.
I hope so too, Sid. I can't wait to see what's next for you. I always enjoy speaking with you and seeing all your cool inventions and innovations as well. So congratulations on all of your accomplishments.
I know our audience listeners must have really enjoyed hearing about your work. Learn more about this program and others by visiting globalinnovationfieldtrip.org and innovationworld.org. Thank you for joining the Innovation World Young Collaborative Podcast series. This is Sid signing off. Until next time.